All right, good morning, guys. I want to go over a couple things with you from last Friday's quiz first, and then a couple things from the notes that I want y'all to take for this week and this coming up quiz. First, these three sentences gave the most problems, so let's go over these in the hopes that when you have the test coming up in a couple weeks here, you understand what you did wrong. In the first sentence, this is the indefinite pronouns. Indefinite pronouns can be tricky, especially when those indefinite pronouns are being used as a subject of a sentence, like is the case in this sentence here. Each of the members speaks for 3 minutes. So remember, a subject can never be in a prepositional phrase. So this is where I think sometimes we can get in trouble. This prepositional phrase has a plural object of the preposition here, members. However, the subject is each. And in your notes, if you look and see under indefinite pronouns that are always singular, each would be one of those. So since each is my subject, I would require a singular predicate here. When I have action verbs, the S on the predicate is the one that shows us the singular choice. So it would be each speaks for 3 minutes. So a lot of students put speak. Each speak for 3 minutes. That's just a tough sentence. It sounds kind of weird either way, but the rule is singular subject, singular verb. For the next two, these both have to do with compound subjects. So if you just kind of pay attention to those rules, you should be able to get this fairly easily. Both flooding and drought. When I have my compound subject joined by and, I'm always going to need plural predicate. So my plural predicate, again, when I have action verbs, the plural predicate would be the one without the S. So both flooding and drought plague Africa. So this one should have been probably a careless mistake, if nothing else. So just pay attention when I have a compound subject to the conjunction that's joining. Down here, it's the same rule. Remember, I have neither nor. So if I have or nor as my subject, and I have one plural, one singular, the rule is the subject closest to the predicate determines whether it's singular or plural. Coach in this particular sentence is singular. Therefore, I would need the singular verb, which would be is. So neither the players nor the coach is happy about the season being canceled. And you know that's a true statement right there, by the way. All right, so these are the three sentences I think that gave us the most trouble on the quiz. So I just want to make sure that we went over that. If you're still not quite sure, just reach out and ask a question. I'll be glad to help you out however I can. All right, so the next thing I want to go over is some of the notes that we're doing now. Okay, these things can be tricky. So have good notes, take a little time to go over it. And again, if you have questions, ask me about it so I can explain it to you. The first thing that we're going to look at is collective nouns. Collective nouns, when it comes to subject-verb agreement, can be tricky because it depends on how it's used in the sentence. Remember what a collective noun is. It's a word that represents more than one as one thing. So family, right? Your families are all at home. When you say my family, you could be referring to your family as one thing. My family is at home now. Or you can be talking about your family members individually, but still use the collective noun family as your subject, right? My family are all doing different things while we're at home. So let's look at a couple of examples. I'm going to take these straight from the book just so you see what's going on. You can use these examples, okay? So we have, the class has decided to have a science fair in November. All right, in this example right here, we're talking about the class as one thing. So my subject is the collective noun class. We're talking about this as one thing. The class together decided on this. So we're referring to that subject as one entire class. Has decided. This would be singular because the usage of the collective noun class in the sentence is singular, talking about the class as a whole. So this would need a singular verb. Conversely, if I wanted to use the class as the subject but talk about the individual members of the class, okay, that's going to be the second example. Okay, so in this sentence, I still have class as my subject, but in this sentence, the collective noun class, I'm referring to the individual members that make up the class. I have a couple of clues in the sentence, context clues, and this is why we worked on that in vocabulary. Looking at context can oftentimes give us the hints that we need to figure out how that collective noun is being used. And in this prepositional phrase right here, in their opinions, because this word right here, there, is plural, the antecedent to there is class. This is telling me when I say there that I'm referring to this as a plural noun, not as a singular noun. So in this case, I would need the plural verb, the plural predicate. The class were divided in their opinions. If this was going to be singular, it would say its opinion. It would be the class was divided in its opinion. That's a little context clue that can help you figure it out. Now, if we look up here, we really don't have that context clue to help us out. But the overall message, nothing in this is indicating that I'm talking about the individual members. So I know this is a little bit difficult, but I think you guys can figure it out. Just read it carefully when you have a collective noun and figure out, am I talking about the collective noun as one thing, or am I talking about it as all the parts that make up that collective noun? All right, let's move on to the next thing now. Okay, so sometimes we have a sentence, you know, it should be subject, predicate, object. That's the way we learn it. Sometimes we have sentences where the subject follows the predicate. They're rare, but they happen. If that's the case, the subject has to agree with the predicate anyway, but the only difference would be the subject is following the predicate. It's usually with sentences that begin with either here or there, right? So let's see. Here we go. We'll just use this one out of the book. Here is my umbrella. Okay. And then we have here are our umbrellas. All right, so sometimes, rare, we have the sentence where the subjects follow the predicate. And when this is the case, you still have to have subject-verb agreement. So because this is singular, I need the singular verb here. Because this is plural, I need the plural verb here. Pretty easy, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on that one. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at is proper noun, well, not necessarily proper nouns, but nouns that are plural, like when we're talking about subjects, or if we're talking about like an illness or something like that, for example, that is plural in its name, its title. We're still only talking about one thing, so we would need a singular verb. So for example, if you get, like the examples in the book, we have electronics, but if you're just talking about a class. So if we're talking about math, right, and we said mathematics my favorite subject. I practiced it. I'm still writing pretty poorly on the board here. All right, so mathematics is or are my favorite subject. Mathematics is only one thing. It's one class. However, we have that S, so this can throw us for a loop right here. We might think that that's plural, but it's not. It's singular. You're talking about one class. So this would be a singular subject, right? Which would require a singular verb. In this particular case, it would be is. So mathematics is my favorite subject, not mathematics are my favorite subject, okay? Pretty easy. Again, just pay attention. It has to do with subject, identify subject first, and if it's talking about something that's only one thing, like mathematics, measles, like the example in the book says, it's going to require a singular verb. Pretty easy, just follow the book on that one. The other one, we kind of talked about this in class before we went on this break. When we're talking about amounts or measurements, it's similar to collective nouns. If we're talking about the individual units of a measurement or an amount, we need plural. If we're talking about the amount or the measurement as one thing, then we're going to need singular. So let's look at two examples from the book real quick, and we'll see how that works. And it's very, very, very similar to collective nouns. So when you get on the quiz this week, or the test next week, or whenever we get to it, pay attention. If my subject is a collective noun, or my subject is an amount or a measurement, I have to look at it a little more carefully than I normally would, right? All right, so let's take a look and see. This is the example out of the book. Okay, $15 is or are enough for that CD. $15 is my subject here. And my subject, we're talking about this dollar amount right here as one thing. This amount, this amount. We're not talking about each one of those 15 individual dollars. We're talking about this as one whole thing. So if I'm talking about this as one whole thing, that means I need the singular verb for it to agree. So $15 is enough for that CD. $50, one amount, I need the singular verb. All right, let's look at an example where we're looking at the individual. Okay. All right. Again, I want to stick to the examples from the book because that'll help you out, I think, as you're reading through the rules. Okay, here's another example. So 10 of the dollars were borrowed. Okay, so now I'm talking about this amount right here. Do this in red so you can kind of see the difference. Okay, here's my amount, but I'm not talking about 10 as one unit here. I'm talking about 10 as part of more money than that. So this is a part of a whole amount. So 10 of the dollars were borrowed. Well, now this becomes plural. And if this is plural, then I need the plural predicate. This would be were. So 10 of the dollars were borrowed. We have a little student here that needs to go to the bathroom. All right, there we go. All right, so 10 of the dollars were borrowed. See the difference. If I'm talking about like collective nouns, the unit is one big measurement, I need singular. If I'm talking about the individuals, I need plural. Pretty basic, pretty simple, but can be very confusing. You just have to take your time, look at it carefully. The last note I think I have in the section that I want you guys to take today is referring to titles. So anytime you have a title of something, even if that title is in plural form, it's only talking about one word, then that would be singular. That rule's pretty easy. So anyway, I just wanted to go over those few things from the quiz and these notes. I hope this helps out. If you have questions, just reach out and ask. I hope everybody's family is healthy and safe. You're making the most out of this. And like I told you guys before, right? This is a very unique thing. This is something nobody's ever gone through before. This is an opportunity for you to show what kind of character you have, right? How you respond to this, how you deal with this. Down the road, when you have a few years past, you're going to look back on this and you're going to say, hey, remember that time we were all quarantined at home and we had to have homeschool. Man, that was crazy, huh? Well, how you handle this is going to help you build your character. And remember what I tell you guys. The measure of a man's character is not when he does when everybody's looking, or in this case, when everything is normal. The measure of a man's character is what he does when no one's looking, or if you're faced with some unusual circumstances. So you guys keep developing yourself into good young men. I look forward to seeing you soon. 5R Nation, love you guys. Take care. Cheers.